morning and welcome everyone to this episode of the Montpelier Happy Hour here on WVEW 107. Guess what? Even though we're live, we need to start again, Emily.
Okay.
Because I forgot to hit my record, which, guess what? I don't have my headphones, so I think it's going to do that.
Okay.
You know
what do we
do? Don't you love this,
do?
folks? This is live.
Do you want me to just send you the audio recording?
Yeah.
From my computer? Okay, great.
That's what we'll do.
We'll do that.
Okay, ready? Take two. Good morning again, you beautiful people, and thank you for joining us on the Montpelier Happy Hour here on WVEW 107.7 LP Brattleboro, your community radio station. I am your host, Olga Peters, and I'm speaking with regular contributor Emily Kornheiser, one of three reps from the town of Brattleboro to the State House. And this is the show where we talk about how everything in Montpelier, and this week we'll also be talking about how everything on the federal level shakes out in Vermont. Welcome, Emily.
Thanks. Good to see you, Olga. And
you too.
I think last week we talked about the sheep behind me. And today I have a much more fantastic backdrop because I am broadcasting from inside the House chamber. This is my seat in the House chamber. And I'm going to do, for all of our video listeners, I'm going to do a little spin shot here.
Do
Panoramic.
you still get butterflies every time you walk into that room?
I do. I still think it's just an extraordinary thing. I also get massive headaches from how uncomfortable the chair is that I'm sitting in if I sit in it too long. But I am here because this is truly the people's house. And what that means is that there are no private rooms in this building. And so today, when I went looking for a common room to be using for the recording, the two that I usually pop into for this were both taken by other people having meetings. And so here I am in the House chamber, and I might be interrupted at any moment by something else going on, which is fine and fun. And we got to have that nice tour of the State House, but it really is the people's house. We do not have offices.
Yeah.
We do not have staff. We just have these like random corners that we hide to have conversations with people. It's pretty cool, mostly.
On the rare occasions I was able to go to the State House for the Commons or other news coverage, usually most of the interviews I did happened either in the main hallway or the coat room.
Exactly. And recently I've been interviewed by Peter Hirschfeld at VPR a few times. And he has like this amazing mental map of like places with good sound quality to hide, to have conversations with people. And so that's been very fun to go on those little journeys with him into random corners of the building.
Have you seen parts of the building you didn't know were there?
No, there were just places that I was like, oh, it never occurred to me that this might be a perfect place for a conversation until now.
Oh, very neat. You'll have to draw me a map sometime.
Yes. So we're here today because well, we're always here today. We come here to get once a week. But today, what we're going to be talking about is abortions and reproductive justice and, all of the horror that's happening and has been happening on the national landscape.
Yes, for anyone who might have been living under a rock, we are revisiting in light of the leaked draft opinion that came down from the Supreme Court, or was leaked out of the Supreme Court, about the majority opinion, pretty women the right to choose. We will be rebroadcasting a December 10th, 2021 interview we did with Charlie Parker Glisserman, who's the policy manager and also the Prop 5 manager with Planned Parenthood of Northern New England. So stay tuned for that. But we also want to just update some folks on some of the things that are happening in the session right now, because we are coming down to the end of it. So why don't we just quickly do that quick update, Emily, and then talk about Prop 5 and why it matters.
Yeah. So we are in the last day of the second to last week of the session. Some people thought that we were going to finish today. I don't know who those people were, but they were very wrong. And so lots of bills moving, lots of things that have we've talked about on the show have passed and been signed into law or been vetoed. So in the last week, S-287 passed, which was the pupil waiting bill. So that passed the Senate, it passed the House with a massive majority vote. We talked about this. We talked about the bill a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. It went back to the Senate. The Senate just concurred with the House amendments, which is incredible. And that's on its way to the governor. We will see what the governor does with it. Last I heard, there was sort of a mixed response there, even though it's been fairly unanimous. I mean, definitely a majority, massive majority, including Republicans in both bodies, have supported it. Mm-hmm. And then the pension bill, which passed unanimously in both bodies.
Oh, I heard that.
Yes, was vetoed by the governor. Okay. And then the Senate had a unanimous veto override vote, 2 days ago. Mm-hmm. And today we have our veto override vote scheduled. And so that's exciting. And then my very favorite bill of the entire biennium, the Office of the Child Advocate.
Right.
That passed the House quite a while ago and actually was just past second reading in the Senate with some amendments. And so the House is sort of ready to receive that back soon. Everyone involved in it has a lot of hope that it's going to make it to the governor's desk. And so I feel very thrilled about that. We did an interview about that one quite a while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that one's fantastic. Very excited about that. S-53, which was a sort of corporate tax reform bill, increased some corporate minimum taxes, grew some other corporate minimum taxes, really ensures that corporations in Vermont are not able to sort of offshore or seclude their revenue in order to avoid taxation. That I worked on really hard last year and the Senate worked on this year. We've been in a committee of conference. I think we just reached agreement on that yesterday and we're going to sign off on that today. That's really exciting. The child tax credit is in a committee of conference right now, and we're going to try to seek some resolution on that next week, but things are looking hopeful there. And all of the big workforce and economic development bills are deeply in conference right now, really have no sense of what's going to happen there. Those are always there. And I think as we talked about with Tristan last week, the material from that bill has all sort of shifted back and forth a whole bunch of times. Who knows what vehicle it even
goes in. The Hungry Caterpillar bill.
Oh, I love that. Yes, very much as that. And then yesterday we passed our second big housing bill in the House. And so that's headed back over to the Senate to sort of resolve some differences, but lots of broad agreements there. The budget details are very close to being ironed out, lots of agreement there. And so everything feels quite possible, with the exception of, we've talked a lot about the opioid bills that we've been working on, and it's not as clear to me what resolution would look like there. It seems like there's some pretty wide gulfs.
Okay.
Yeah, and the reach up bill also has sort of come back, and we're looking to see whether or not we can seek agreement with the Senate on that. So those were two big, exciting priorities that we're still ironing out. So that's, I'm sure I've left a million other things sort of behind, but that's all of the action this week before we start talking about the abortions.
That is a lot. And thank you for coming back to some of the things we had talked about, Emily, so we can update listeners on that. It's nice to be able to close those loops.
Yeah, it is.
Time to time. So yeah, we, as I mentioned, Emily, we recorded this in December. Mm-hmm. So, the tail end of last year. And as you've been sitting with Prop 5, and we'll quickly tell people what Prop 5 is in a second, has your thoughts about it changed, evolved, anything different in light of the Supreme Court draft leak?
Yeah. One thing I've been really struck with this last week as I open up the newspaper or Twitter or whatever it is, and or like my text threads with friends, and I just will actually want to start sobbing about it, with sort of like fear and grief in equal measure, is how remarkably and terrifyingly prescient, or I never know how to pronounce that word, seeing into the future, we really were 4 years ago in this body, and how much what we were willing to do to prepare for this moment, knowing it was likely coming, and even if it wasn't, better to be prepared than not prepared. And so when we passed age 57 4 years ago, in order to ensure that, you know, we had in statute, on the books, full and free access to abortion in Vermont of any kind at any time, that really just leaving that decision out of statute and in the hands of the doctor-patient relationship, that felt huge. And I, you know, just read an article today about how folks are already sort of crossing borders to come into Vermont to seek abortions that they might be needing for specific reasons. And then the next piece is Prop 5, which, you know, a constitutional amendment needs to start way out. You know, it's gone through, this is second biennium it's going through, it's going to the voters in November. That feels like a long and incredible journey that will be arriving at like exactly the right moment. And that is terrifying and sad, and also like feels really hopeful. And so I don't know if this is, you know, if us doing this, in addition to sort of how it will protect Vermonters for whatever the next wave after this might be, that feels really possible. If you know, if certainly it will protect us from court decisions. It's not clear to me if it would protect us from federal legal action in any direction, but it will certainly even protect us from the whims of future legislatures.
Yeah.
Because it takes a lot to pass an amendment like this. And, you know, this, I hope, the other piece is that it gives Vermonters who are really worried about this, as they should be, and are really concerned about, you know, our, you know, fellow Americans in other states that are struggling around issues of access. It gives us something to focus on. It gives us a sort of a piece of hope and something to organize around, because that vote in November is going to be really, really important. So there's all of that. And then sort of there's the next stage that we're working on now. And so that next stage is having conversations about, okay, so let's say, you know, Vermont is this haven in America for reproductive freedom. What does that mean for all of those other people? And accessing an abortion in another state is really, really expensive. You know, when before Roe versus Wade, a lot of American women would travel to Mexico for an abortion. And that was incredibly expensive. And it meant that only the privileged few could access this piece of their healthcare needs. And so what we're doing, and so there's a national network of abortion funds. And Vermont has sort of an abortion fund called Vermont Access to Reproductive Freedom. And so folks can donate there. And then the dollars that they collect helps for transportation costs, hotel costs, for anyone traveling sort of within the US who needs to seek reproductive health care that they can't seek in their own state. So that's really exciting. And I think they're, you know, getting a stronger network. People are really starting to step up and donate to those funds. That feels like a really important piece of the puzzle. And then the last thing is that we're now looking to see if in sort of the final weeks of the session, or to be ready for January, to look at safe harbor laws to ensure that if someone comes to Vermont from another state, or accesses remote care in Vermont from another state, that they will be protected by our laws, and that whoever provides that care to them would also be protected.
And that sounds like it's in response to some states are looking at making it illegal to even assist someone in accessing an abortion. And so it sounds like that's what that safe harbor law will kind of buffer people against?
Yeah. So in, the Texas law, which was sort of the first of its kind, a private citizen can bring a claim against both someone who supports someone seeking an abortion and someone getting an abortion, including like the person, the taxi driver who took them to the clinic.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, including the doctor. And so this would sort of protect folks within the state of Vermont who are assisting access to reproductive health care in any way.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're working on that right now. That's sort of our next step.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Emily. I admire your going to a place of grief and sadness, but also hope. I admit this morning I was going to a place of just rage. And I was thinking, just sitting with if Roe v. Wade is overturned, we're focusing right now on Prop 5 and protecting reproductive freedoms in Vermont. But if Roe v. Wade is overturned, that whole theme of freedom and choice that Roe v. Wade allowed when it allowed women's access to abortions has so many other implications for other laws and court cases that have come since. And I was just raging at the my own fear.
Yeah. And privacy.
Roe v. Wade goes away.
Yeah, no, it's huge. The privacy piece is also huge too.
Yeah.
That like these are the government's sort of right to interfere in my home and in my body, right? And that would be government business is really a remarkable piece of all of that too. It's terrifying, and their implications, like we're already seeing sort of the rollout of other very similar sort of implications around rights of trans youth.
I
really
think that a lot of people don't realize how Roe v. Wade, even if they were not a woman seeking an abortion, how Roe v. Wade may have protected them in other aspects of their lives.
Yep.
And hopefully Prop 5 will do that too for folks in Vermont.
At least in Vermont. Yeah. And, maybe us doing this work in Vermont sets a roadmap for other states to be able to pick up the mantle. So, yeah.
Well, I can hear the State House work kind of picking up in the background.
Yes, so I don't know if we've talked about our pages before, but
no, I don't.
We have some middle school students can intern in the State House for 6 weeks. And so there's a rotating, amazing crew of 8th graders at all times who are here for a 6-week period. They're here full time for 6 weeks. They wear these really very sweet green blazers, and they run around the State House passing messages between us. Mm-hmm. And so today is this group's final day, and they are graduating. And so they're all essentially just like running around the House chamber, having a really good time right now because it's mostly empty. And like they were playing with the gavel and stuff, and I didn't have the heart to stop them because this is like their last day in this really magical building together. Yes. Yeah, but it is, I'm sorry, it's quite noisy probably.
That's okay. It's the people's house and the people's work.
Yes.
So we are just about out of time. So for our radio listeners on WVEW, heads up, Emily and I spoke long enough, so I will rebroadcast the first half of our interview with Charlie Parker Glisserman about Prop 5, but I'll make sure that the link to the YouTube video and the audio is back on our webpage and our Facebook page, so you can get the full interview from our Facebook page in just a little bit.
Thank you, Olga.
Thank you. Hey, Emily, cheers on making it to this almost last day of the session.
Thank you. And cheers to us all making it through in this world that really seems to not want us to some days.
Yeah.
Yeah.